Hello everyone, it's Marie and today I'm filming a very impromptu online teaching FAQ video part 2. So in my first online teaching FAQ video, which I filmed a couple weeks ago, I ended up getting loads of questions in the comments asking further online teaching questions, so I just thought I would go ahead and answer a lot of these questions because they are also common questions that I get. So without further ado, I'm just going to get into it and answer them, and I'm just going to answer them from top to bottom. So okay, so the first question is, do you have a background that you carry around? I noticed that a lot of companies want your space to look like a classroom. That's a really good question, especially when you're traveling around. If you need your background to look a certain way, it can be difficult to kind of carry a background around with you. But 5-1 Talk like you to have a white background, kind of like what's behind me. So with 5-1 Talk, normally I don't need a background at all because I usually tend to find a place wherever I'm at that I can teach. You know, in most houses, people will have like a white background. If I'm house sitting, I can just sit behind the white background there and, you know, teach, and it's not a problem. Same with if I'm, you know, in an Airbnb or whatever I'm doing, wherever I'm going, usually I manage to find a plain background that I can use. Because I'm only working for 5-1 Talk and they just require a plain background, I don't really need a background, I take my own manual. The next question is from Curious USA. Thank you, Curious USA, I know you comment on a lot of my videos and I really appreciate all the questions you always ask me. So the first question is, how much of a problem is a student not paying attention? So that's always a difficult one. Usually it's the children, like the little ones, that don't pay attention. The kids just kind of not bothering, or they're like looking away, or they're on their phone. I often get kids like texting and stuff. So usually what I'll do is I'll just try and like make the lesson a bit more fun. So I'll maybe suggest we sing a song. I'll go on YouTube, I'll put a song on and I'll get them to sing. If they're really little, like 4 or 5 years old, I get like a little teddy or like the animals that I'm house sitting or something. I'll just show them something exciting and fun, get their attention back, and then try and get really enthusiastic and get the kids to pay attention. But sometimes they just don't, and I just kind of breeze through the lesson and I have to kind of deal with it. But I mean, in terms of, is it a problem? I mean, it is a kind of a problem in the sense that the lesson flow doesn't go the way it should. And it could mean that the lesson goes on longer and I end up having to skip certain activities. For example, if it's taking me 5 minutes to get a kid to do a task that should take 2 minutes, then that is a problem because I obviously can't have the lesson dragging out because I have to finish it at a certain time in order to get into a new class. If the kid really just isn't paying attention and they're dragging on a task, I will just skip on to the next task, and hopefully if there's a change of task they will get their attention back. But it's always a bit difficult. I mean, it doesn't cause too many problems because I'm used to it now, so I'm quite good at handling it. I usually just kind of move on to the next question. I don't kind of make them finish something if they're just not interested and not paying attention. I'll do my best to be enthusiastic, be excitable, and just get them to kind of join in. But if they're not, there's not much I can really do about it. They're on a computer screen at the other side of the world, so I've just got to kind of do everything that I can to be exciting, have fun, and just get them interested. If they're not, there's not really much I can do, but I just try my absolute best. And yeah, at the end of the day, if they're not paying attention and it's going on too long, I have to still stop the lesson when the lesson's over, so I just do my best to make sure they get something out of it. Does the student ever swear at you? I've never had a student swear at me, not that I know of. I mean, they may have swore at me in Chinese and I didn't know, but I've never had a child swear at me in English. I've never really had a child be that rude to me. I have had children do other things, so rather than swearing, sometimes you get, especially the boys, I don't know why, but like the little boys, they tend to be the worst. Sometimes they, you know, they'll like punch the camera, like I'm not joking. Sometimes I'll have kids like punching their camera, I guess trying to punch me or just trying to annoy me, I don't know. Or I'll get them like, you know, getting really like angry, like their little faces look so frustrated and annoyed, and like they'll throw things or they'll get really just a bit crazy. And in that situation, I just ignore it. I don't pay any attention to it. So if they're being, you know, really aggressive in that kind of way, like they're being very rude, or they're being naughty, like they're throwing things, they're just, you know, sometimes they'll pull really bad faces at me, like they'll put their face right up to the camera, like try and lick the camera, and just, it's gross. Like I think they just try and annoy me. They're just trying to be kids, you know, and they're just like trying to kind of creep me out or something, but I don't focus on it. I just ignore it completely. If they're doing that kind of stuff, I don't pay attention to it. Sometimes if they're not paying attention, I'll be like, okay, let's listen now, let's get this done, and I'll get firm with them. But at the same time, there's not much you can do about it. So I've found the best thing to do is just don't acknowledge it. If you don't acknowledge them being misbehaving, then they tend to get bored of doing it because they're not getting a reaction from you. So normally, if they're misbehaving that bad and they're being very rude and aggressive, I will normally just ignore it. I won't give them a reaction, and normally that makes them just give up and stop, and then they get bored. Is there an age that tends to be more of a joy to teach? To be honest, I think it just depends on the child. So I really like teaching the children that are maybe between the ages of like 6 and 10, because that age group, they're just really, you know, they're old enough to understand what they're doing. At that point, they're usually quite good at English and they have better fluency skills. I found at that age they pay the most attention, they're the most interested. Any younger than 6, usually they're just little and sometimes they'll do it, but a lot of the times they just get bored and their concentration just kind of doesn't last more than 5 minutes. But you know, when they're about school age, they're a really good age because they seem to enjoy pleasing their teacher. They really want to work hard, they want to achieve goals, they want to get their magic stars. Like, they're at that age where they really want to do well and they want to make you proud, so I find that that age is a really good age to teach. But at the same time, I have some teenage students like that are getting ready to, you know, go to college, and they're learning English because they really need it for work and for education and stuff, so they're always very enthusiastic, so they're a joy to teach. But as a whole, I think I like the kind of children the best, that are like not too young, not too old, just in between, because I find they're the most excitable and the most enthusiastic as a whole. Did a student ever hurt your feelings? No, I've never had a student hurt my feelings. I guess my feelings don't get hurt that easily. I think I'm quite a tough person. You know, when a child misbehaves or they're rude or whatever, that wouldn't hurt my feelings. It just kind of frustrates me because I'm like, I just want to teach you, stop misbehaving, but it wouldn't hurt my feelings. The only time someone could really hurt my feelings is if they know me on a really personal level, and they would maybe do something or say something that would really get at me personally. But these children don't know me. They've known me maybe a handful of weeks, sometimes just met me that day, so they couldn't do anything that would hurt my feelings. They've never said anything like rude about my appearance. If anything, all I ever get is them, you know, mostly the children are really, really polite and lovely, and they'll say things like, oh, you're so pretty, and they'll say, oh, I love your hair. Like, they're really lovely, and they're always complimenting their teachers. They're just such sweet kids. Usually they're really lovely, polite children. Like, it's like the 1% that are like misbehaving and naughty and stressing me out. Most of them are really well behaved, really sweet, really lovely. Most kids are really into actually learning and getting it done. I don't get many children that misbehave. When I do, it can be annoying, but it's not a super common thing. Can you refuse to teach a certain student? No, I can't refuse to teach a certain student. I mean, potentially, if there was a student that was that bad and I wrote like a letter to, like, I don't know, my HR department or something that I work for, and potentially I could get them so that that student would never book in with me. I'm sure that that's an option, but I've never needed to do that, and it's not as easy as like putting a child on a block list or something. I can't do that. I think I'd have to go through some sort of department to get that done, but it's not easy to do, and I don't really feel the need to do that. There's never been a student that I've had regularly that's annoyed me so bad that I don't want to teach them again. Can a student refuse you as a teacher? I don't know. I honestly don't know. The way it works is the students would book in with me, so I open up my slots, then a student would book in with me. So I guess if they didn't want me to teach them, they'd just choose a different teacher. They wouldn't choose me. So all my students have chosen me personally. They haven't just been like given to me by a system. They have actually gone on my profile and booked in with me personally and chosen to be booked with me. So it's their choice whether they want to be taught by me or someone else. So I don't really think that's necessary, but maybe with other teaching platforms it would be a thing. Is there a parent with a student while you teach? Sometimes there's a parent, sometimes there's not. You find with the younger children, there's usually often a parent at least in the room, so sometimes the parents bob in and out and just check up on it. When the children are very little, like 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, usually the parents are sat next to them and they're encouraging them and helping them kind of get on with it. And sometimes it's really helpful when the parents are there when they're that little, because the little children sometimes are very shy and nervous and they probably wouldn't do it. They probably wouldn't want to talk to me, or they probably wouldn't know what to do if the parent wasn't sat next to them. So when they're very little, yeah, the parents are usually sat there to encourage them and motivate them. When they're older and they've been having lessons for a long time, the parents usually don't need to be there anymore, so the parents aren't really there. Usually they come in and out the room occasionally, but a lot of the time there's no parents around. But it totally depends. Sometimes it's easier when parents are there because they motivate the child and encourage the child. Other times it's really difficult when the parents are there because they're kind of doing my job for me, but in a bad way. So, you know, they'll kind of correct the child's pronunciation, but sometimes they'll correct it wrong. And then I feel rude for correcting the parent's pronunciation, or there'll be times when, you know, the parent will correct every little thing the child does, and as teachers, we're taught not to focus on every mistake. We're taught to focus on the positive, and obviously when a child mispronounces something a few times, you would correct them. But if they just keep mispronouncing it, you can't just keep telling them 100 times in the lesson how wrong they are, because it's just going to frustrate them. And if they're not getting it after 5 corrections, there's just no point in keep correcting them. Just leave it and then go back to it next lesson. So I don't like to correct every mistake. Sometimes the parents, they expect me to correct everything, every second, and there's just not enough time in a lesson to do that. Same with like singing songs. Often we'll do like a warm-up and we'll sing a song. The warm-up should take like 1 minute. It's just a fun song to sing. And obviously the children aren't going to sing the song perfectly because they're just learning English, and it's just a quick song, it's a warm-up, and the parents will expect me to teach them this song to the exact tune, note, music, and get all the pronunciation perfect in 1 minute. And it's hard for me to explain. It's just a warm-up, it doesn't have to be perfect. So sometimes the parents can be really frustrating, other times they're really helpful. Is there any evaluation testing of the students' learning? So I don't really know much about this, but the students work with textbooks, so they start off on, say, a specific level, so maybe they're starting off on level 2. They'll work through the curriculum and the guidebooks and the textbooks, so they work up and up and up, and then they do like lesson reviews, and then they'll go up to the next level. So all I know is that they go through the levels and go through some sort of curriculum, and they go up and up and up in levels. I see them progressing regularly as they go through the books, and as far as I'm aware, it's my job just to teach them what's there in front of me, what workbook they're working with, and I'll obviously correct them along the way. And I'm pretty sure that if they feel that the lesson's too hard for them, or if I feel the lesson's too hard for them, we can make them work with a lower textbook or a higher level textbook or something. But to be honest, that's something I don't know a lot about. I just kind of teach them what they're given. I hope that kind of made sense, but every company is different. I'm sure there are other companies where they're evaluated regularly. I don't really know much about what happens behind the scenes with the students and the like website people. All I know is what I have to do, and that's just teaching them basically. Are there other subjects taught besides English? So yes, yeah, definitely. So the way 5-1-Talk works is it's not just teaching like the English language, so it's not just teaching grammar, it's more teaching how to converse and how to get on in the English language as a person living in the English world. So we learn all kinds of things in the lessons that I teach. So sometimes we do maths lessons and we'll speak in English, but we'll work out maths problems in English. Other times we'll learn geography. We're often talking about travel and different countries, what culture's like in different places, how to get on an aeroplane, how to get on a train, St. Lucia or Thailand, and different things you can do in different countries. So there's a lot of history lessons too. Often we'll learn about different events that happened in history, and sometimes we'll talk about inventions, sometimes we'll talk about science. So there's a whole bunch of subjects blended into the lessons. As a whole, I think I'm there to teach them to speak in English. So our lessons are always focusing on conversating in English about any topic, and grammar and spelling and reading all kind of comes into that. I hope that makes sense. So that's all of your questions answered. Thank you, Curious USA, for asking those questions. I hope that my answers were helpful in some way. Next question I got asked is, do you manage to explore the location you're in during the week since you work basically all day? So yeah, obviously you're referring to the fact that we house sit, so sometimes we'll be in a location for like 1 week, 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks, and I'll usually work like 6 or 7 hours a day, and usually I work like 5 days a week. So for example, right now in Heidelberg, Germany, I am here for 5 days and I booked to work 4 days out of 5. So the first day I had off, that was my birthday, and we explored the town. We had a lovely time, it was awesome. So the 4 days that we're here that I am working, basically I'll just be working during the day and then we'll just go out in the evening. So I'm quite lucky. I don't like finish at 6 PM, usually I finish at about 4 PM, which is almost late afternoon, and all the shops are still open and we're staying right in the city centre. So, you know, I can finish work at 4 and then I can just walk out and go to town, explore the shops for an hour or two before they close. We could have some food if we wanted, we can go on a bike ride. Yesterday after work we went cycling around the area and it was just gorgeous, we loved it. So just because I'm working until 4 or 5 doesn't mean that I still don't get to see the city and explore in the evenings. And there are some days I will choose to finish early at like 2 PM so that we can go out a bit earlier. and like I said, I will just explore on the days off. So it's obviously a balance. If I had every day off exploring, I wouldn't be able to even fund the trip because I couldn't work. So I really do have to balance it out, and I understand that in order to see these countries and in order to live this lifestyle, I have to work a few hours a day. So I just I'm used to it now, and for me, it's just normal life for me. It doesn't matter where I am in the world. I don't feel obliged to constantly go out and see all the sights like a tourist, because at the end of the day, the only way I can even be here right now in Germany is by working as a teacher. So the way I see it is, if I wasn't working, I wouldn't even be here. So I just count my blessings and be very thankful and grateful that I am here in Germany right now. And I'm just very, very, very thankful for what I do have and for the amount of the city that I do get to see when I'm not at work. I always just try and focus on the positive and focus on what I do have rather than what I don't have. I could sit down all day thinking, oh, I just wish I could see more of the city and not work. Or I could just sit down and think, well, if I wasn't working right now at this table in this city, I wouldn't even be here. I'd be stuck at home in an office job. So you gotta think of the positives. So yeah, that's just kind of what I do. Okay, so the next question is, I used to do face-to-face English teaching, and I was wondering if you ever have a situation where it is hard to keep attention of the students. Do they ever just get up and walk away from their side of the screen, or do the short lessons prevent that? So there have been a few times, yeah, where I've had children and it's hard to keep their attention and they have just wandered off. Sometimes they'll wander away and then they'll like grab a toy or something and then bring it back to me and show me it, but a lot of the time they'll just wander off, or they'll just not be interested. Like I said, they'll go on their phones, they'll, you know, start showing me their toys and just being distracted. So I try my hardest to just make it exciting and fun. So if they're being really distracted from playing with something, I'll say to them, oh, what is that you've got? And I'll talk to them about it. So if they're on the phone, I'll show them my phone. I'm like, oh look, I have a phone too. What can we do with our phone? And I'll try and bring it into conversation. If they're very little, I'll try and, like, you know, get them to see one of the animals I'm house sitting for, or I'll pick up a soft toy or a card. I'll get them to count, or I'll start singing. I'll just try my hardest to grab their attention in some way. But there definitely has been situations where they'll just walk away, and that's always a difficult bit because you don't know where they are because you can't see, or you can see as their screen. So sometimes I just have to wait until they come back, or I'll start singing, or I'll start talking and hope they come back. But it's only been like 1 or 2 times out of hundreds that I've had a student walk away. Normally they do get distracted and, you know, they'll start playing with things or just like bobbing up and down or just being a bit silly. So I just try my hardest to be fun, excited. I don't get frustrated or angry with them because I don't think that's going to help. So I try my hardest to just make it fun and exciting and in some way bring positivity to it and just kind of get them, you know, back into it. And even if the lesson doesn't go exactly to plan, even if, you know, we don't always talk about everything on the textbook, as long as I've got their attention and I'm trying my hardest to kind of get them, you know, talking to me and learning something from the lesson, then that's, in my opinion, an accomplishment when you've got a child that just isn't interested. In terms of do the short lessons prevent that, so I have 25-minute lessons, and I definitely think if they were longer than 25 minutes, the children would just get so bored. So I think that 25 minutes is good. But in terms of does it prevent them getting frustrated, I don't think so. I mean, sometimes children get bored after 5 minutes, sometimes 1 minute, and I find some children are really into it and then suddenly they're just off. I don't know, I think that some children, if they're going to get bored and distracted, they usually get distracted after like 5 minutes or something. So yeah, it's always a bit of a struggle, but I just kind of do what I can to grab their attention and get them back interested. So that seems to be all the questions that you guys asked answered, so thank you so much for asking these questions. I love doing these teaching FAQ videos. I didn't realise people had so many questions until I started making them, and yeah, I really enjoy doing it because I love talking about teaching. It's something that has obviously helped me a lot because it's enabled me to travel full time. So thank you for asking. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did like the video, please give me a thumbs up and like it. And please subscribe to my channel to watch more videos about things like online teaching, but also online work, being a digital nomad, traveling, travel vlogs, minimalism, all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in any of that, subscribe to my channel below, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.